Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Wednesday, 3 days away now from that big North London derby at the Emirates, the first game back after the international break. We are now done with the internationals. They are over with until the World Cup right now. A couple of Arsenal players in action. Yes, I talk about that a little bit later on, but wanted to focus today very much on that Spurs game on Saturday lunchtime. What a massive game it is. I'm sure you're all beginning to get nervous as I am. I hate them and love them at the same time, this North London derby. Love them at the end if Arsenal have won. Hate everything else about them. Hate the build-up. Hate watching it. Certainly hate if Arsenal lose. But yeah, just feel one of those games, isn't it? You wake up in the morning feeling ill with nerves and it just doesn't go away until the full-time whistle and you know you've won. And this is a very big game for both clubs. Both started the season very well. Arsenal top of the table. Spurs just a couple of places and only 1 point behind them. Could go above Arsenal with a win at the Emirates. And it's just a big game. It's just start of a big little period for Arsenal as well. We've got Liverpool after that. Again, big question marks. Can Arsenal beat the top teams? Lost at Man United, the only time they've played a supposed big team this season, and there'll be lots of eyes on them as they take on Tottenham and Liverpool to see what they can do about them. Now, Arsenal tend to win at home against Tottenham. They've done that very well in recent years at the Emirates. I don't really know what it will tell us about the team if they do win on Saturday, but I think certainly the nature of the performance is going to be a really interesting one, and whether Arsenal can really take the game to Spurs, dominate them from the start, and try and get themselves with 3 points in very impressive fashion as they did last season and blew them away in that first half. 3-0 up at half-time. Very different Spurs team, granted, very different manager, and Spurs were absolutely in chaos at that point and were not a very good team at all, and sacked manager, and they've improved, no doubt. Antonio Conte has done a very good job there, and I expect it's going to be really difficult. He will get that team very much pumped up for this one. Little bit of history as well between Antonio Conte and Mikel Arteta, which I'm sure we'll hear more of in the next couple of days as we really start to build up for that game. The press conference coming up on Friday for Arteta. That's at 1 o'clock on Friday at London Colney. I'm not sure when Conte's is. I don't know if that's been confirmed yet, but Arteta's is on Friday, so we'll hear about that. Hear from him then about everything building up to that game, and definitely the sort of the fallout from the game at White Hart Lane, or the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, whatever you want to call it, at the end of last season when Conte told Arteta to stop moaning. I'm sure that's going to be built up as we prepare for Saturday's game. Now, the good news for Arsenal, as far as I'm aware, that the expectation is that Thomas Partey will be available to play that game against Spurs. There's an expectation that he's going to be fit. He has obviously came back early from Ghana with a bit of an issue with a knee, which sort of saw him pull out of the game against Brazil in the warm-up, basically. At the time, everyone was saying, all the noises you were getting from his people were that it's purely precaution. He felt something. He didn't want to risk it. Some big games for Arsenal coming up, and that's why he pulled out. And then Arsenal decided to bring him back because he wasn't going to play in the second game anyway. So everything was done the right way. It was all done with precaution. And certainly at this stage, and we're still a few days away, and I noticed that he wasn't in the pictures for training yesterday, so I'm sure they're probably taking things easy with him and making sure he is all right. But as far as I'm aware, the expectation is that he is going to be available to play against Tottenham on Saturday. He will join in training either today or later this week in the build-up to that big North London derby. So that is very much good news, and the expectation also is that Tomiyasu, Tierney and Zinchenko hopefully will be fit as well. Tierney came back early from Scotland with that head injury again. That was just described as being precautionary. It looks like he is going to be okay. Tomiyasu as well, and then Zinchenko's the big one. He didn't go away with his international team. Obviously, he stayed back at Arsenal, didn't link up with Ukraine for their games. They drew yesterday against Scotland. But that was all sort of done with the aim that he could have a little bit of extra rest and would be okay for the Tottenham game. And fingers crossed at the moment, all sort of signs are that he will be. Again, we didn't see him in training yesterday, so I suggest Arsenal probably are taking it pretty carefully with him. And we'll certainly get as much of an update as we possibly can from Mikel Arteta on Friday about the fitness of some of these players. But Arteta, the way he keeps things close to his chest. But on the injury front, it's hopefully not looking too bad. Now, there's lots of time for that to change, obviously, and fingers crossed it does stay the same way. But and the fact Odegaard has played both games as well while he's been away on international duty suggests he'll be absolutely fine. We certainly hope that he would be fine. Having missed the game against Brentford before the international break, he will be fine as well. And then you're kind of looking at Mikel Arteta having a very, very strong squad to pick from for that Tottenham game if everyone does pass the necessary fitness tests that I'm sure the likes of Partey, Tomiyasu, Zinchenko are going to have to pass during training at some point this week to be given the definite green light to play against Spurs on Saturday. I mean, if they are all declared fit, then I think Mikel Arteta is going to have some big decisions to make in a couple of areas. I mean, Thomas Partey is going to be the really big one, I think, in terms of if he is okay and given the green light, do you just throw him in? I think you have to because of how important he is, but there's just always that fear in the back of your mind coming off the back of a little bit of an injury issue with Thomas Partey. Do you throw him in, or do you sort of look a little bit more longer term with him? I think you have to play him against Spurs if he's fit. If he passes whatever the necessary fitness tests that he's going to have to pass this week in training are, and he gets the green light, then I think you absolutely have to play him in a game of this magnitude. Then you look at if Zinchenko and Tierney are both fit, who do you play in this one? Tierney had his best performance of the season against Brentford. I thought he was very, very good. Do you go with who you would probably say is the better defender out of the two, which is Tierney against Tottenham's attack, or do you go with Zinchenko, who I think we all know can certainly help and improve Arsenal in the final third, the way he does when he comes into the central areas from that left-hand side? Do you play Zinchenko and try and probably keep more hold of the ball and try and dominate Tottenham and keep them pinned back in their half, rather than worry and having probably what you would describe as the better defender to try and stop the Tottenham counter-attack? We know what Tottenham are going to do. It's clear. It's obvious. The only issue is when Arsenal went to Man United, they knew what Man United were going to do and they were still unable to stop it. They got sucked in and got hit on the counter-attack. Tottenham's going to be very, very similar. We know how they like to play against everyone. They're a counter-attacking team. That's what they are under Antonio Conte, and a very, very good one and a very efficient one at that. When you look at Tottenham's stats and their numbers in terms of chances converted, it's so high, and that's because of the quality of finishes they've got. You know, you look at Son, the finish, and I know he's had a difficult start to the season, but he scored a hat-trick last time out. You look at Kane, you know, they're just absolute, you know, they just don't need two chances to score one goal. They need one chance to score one goal. They're that good, they're that efficient, and the numbers back that up. And so you don't want to be giving away too many chances against Tottenham. And so it's going to be really interesting to see what Mikel Arteta goes for in the team selection, is certainly at left back, whether it be Zinchenko or Tierney. When they're both available against Man United, Zinchenko came straight back into the team. So maybe that's a bit of a sort of signal to where Mikel sees them in the pecking order when they're both fit. But I think this one's going to be a really intriguing one when it comes to the team selection. Elsewhere, you kind of think it picks yourself. You've got the big Thomas Partey decision that he's going to have to make at some point during this week after whatever tests are carried out to make sure he's okay. But other than that, you look at the right back again, Ben White or Tomiyasu. It's a difficult call, but you would think the way he's gone this season, Mikel Arteta, it's going to be Ben White because he's just playing at the moment. He's ahead in the pecking order. You look at who the defenders, the players they're going to be up against on that left-hand side. You think, you know, it's going to be Son, isn't it? And who do you play? Do you play an out-and-out right back in that position to try and counter the threat of Son, or do you stick with Ben White, who, yes, he's not an out-and-out right back, but has been playing very, very well? It's a big call. I think he'll stick with White. I'd be surprised if he doesn't. But there is other options available to him. Other than that, then you've got the team picks itself, doesn't it? It's going to be Thomas Partey. It's going to be Odegaard. Going to be Xhaka. Going to be Saka, Jesus, Martinelli. I'd be very, very surprised if there are any other changes from the usual start 11 that we've been seeing. Jesus is on a booking. Is one game away, from a suspension. He's got 4 bookings, and that is a bit of a concern when you've got Liverpool coming up, especially when it's a North London derby, because you know there's going to be plenty of yellow cards this weekend. It's just the nature of the game, the nature of the derby. Anthony Taylor's referee for this one on Saturday, and if Jesus gets booked, then that's not great with Liverpool coming up. But I think it's a given he's going to get a ban at some point because he's only 1 booking away. Hopefully he can keep his cool and not dive in when in an unnecessary way, and he doesn't get booked, because Arsenal do not want to lose Jesus for the Liverpool game. But it will certainly give Eddie Nketiah an opportunity at some point in the Premier League when that fifth booking does come along. So I'd say, looking at it right now, it's going to be Ramsdale, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Partey, Odegaard, Xhaka, Saka, Jesus, Martinelli. That's what I'm looking at. That's what I'd be surprised if it's not. If everyone's fit, that is. Obviously, I think that's probably the team we will see start against Tottenham on Saturday. But as I said, plenty of days to go. We've got Mikel Arteta's press conference on Friday, so we'll know more by the end of the week in terms of who could well be lining up in the North London derby. Finally, internationals yesterday. Granit Xhaka played all 90 minutes for Switzerland. They won. Odegaard played 90 minutes for Norway. They lost, beating against Serbia. Not been a good international break for Norway. Lost both their games, actually. So Odegaard's not going to be very happy when he comes back, but what can you do? Folarin Balogun had a good international break. Scored against Germany under-21s yesterday. He scored the equaliser, actually. England went 1-0 down. They ended up winning 3-1. Balogun got the equaliser about 5 minutes before half-time. Really sharp goal as well with his wrong foot. Good little touch, take it away defender, shot on the turn, in off the post. And he's having a very good start to the season. I think you look at Balogun, don't you, and look at that loan spell, and it's proven to be a really decent move for him. He scored for England. He scored 5 in 8 over in France. Got a couple of assists as well, I think, and it's just looking like one of those loan spells that hopefully is going to pay off. Arsenal are a little bit light in the striker department, no doubt about it. They've only really got Jesus and Nketiah as your central striking options, so it would have been pretty easy to keep Balogun, but it just felt like he needed a proper season on loan. He had his half season last season when he went over to Middlesbrough. Did all right. Didn't score too many goals, but he did all right. And that was his first really cutting his teeth in senior football there in the Championship. It just felt at the start of the season he needed a full season away, full season in senior football to really try and adjust and make that step up from youth football, where he tore it up, where he was just scoring goals for fun at 21s level. It was no good him sticking around and just making the odd substitute appearance for Arsenal or the odd cup appearance. He needed a good 35, 38, 40 games in senior football this season. It looks like he's going to get that, and he's doing very, very well. Good luck to him. Look forward to seeing how the rest of his season progresses. But if you haven't seen it yet, have a look at that goal for the England under-21s, because I thought it was really smart as well. And it wasn't just a goal and the finish, but just before that, when the cross was about to come in, I liked his movement. The ball didn't end up coming to him, but I just really liked his movement in and around the 6-yard box. It was very smart, and I'm looking forward to seeing how Balogun gets on. That's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Anything you agree with, disagree with, let me know in the comments below. Please do have a good rest of your day, and I'll speak to you tomorrow as we gear up. Very much all eyes on the North London derby on Saturday. Have a great day.